Hello and welcome to The Attention Shift. This is a message for you to go and download the Great Attention Shift report from me and Display. This gives you the concrete steps to move from one-way broadcast to content co-creation, helping you unlock new revenue streams and make your brand worth staying for.
Welcome to The Attention Shift, a podcast where sports media gets debated like a VAR decision, passionately, longer than it should, and with none of us fully agreeing on the outcome.
So, producer Will's been having me acting, posting, pretending that I hit the ball on a dartboard and all other kinds of nonsense recently, but I've also managed to find the time to do some actual work. I've been working on a report in the background for a little while now called The Great Attention Shift, which you probably noticed has got a similar title to this podcast.
Oh, that was lucky.
Yeah. The idea behind it is a lot of the stuff I've been musing about on LinkedIn over the last couple of years. Love it or hate it. I wanted to put it together all in one place. A little bit of a record, for myself, but also hopefully people find it useful in terms of the things that we've been talking about. And I think back earlier this year, I was talking to the two of you about how I had this idea of doing a report and maybe a podcast. And then you two went away and spoke separately and said, he's going to die if he doesn't do anything. Quite frankly. That fair? And thankfully, you dug me out of a massive hole and then decided to come and join me doing the podcast. So ultimately, a lot of what we talk about on this is very much in the report and pulled together. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk to you two about it. Now you've had a chance to have a read of it, correct all the spelling mistakes, move things around a bit.
Take credit where credit's due, AJ.
I do get told off from my husband frequently for spotting continuity errors.
I'm
That's just my thing.
The idea is, I think, certainly from my perspective, it's a bit of a line in the sand in terms of where we see things going at the moment. I know we have very similar views on that.
Do you know what I think is really interesting? Given that we were talking about this and you were thinking about how you were going to pull this together when we decided that we could theme a podcast around it. It's something that we all have been talking about and we all very much agree on, which is why we find the hot takes huddles tricky sometimes, because we do think very similarly. What does surprise me sometimes is how we kind of just assume everybody thinks like this and everybody understands how attention is fragmenting and shifting. And then every once in a while, when you see it pulled together and you talk to people about it, you realise actually there's a lot of people that don't understand this. So actually to have it pulled together is really useful. So well done you.
I've never done anything like this before, and it always feels a little bit, what are people going to read it? People are going to want to read it, and we've tried to give some tangible examples in there, in terms of to try and bring alive some of the sort of ideas and concepts, and I guess we certainly don't see any of this as rocket science, would be fair to say, but I think there's a lot of stuff that probably needs saying, so at least I got it out of my system.
And worth saying that things are changing so quickly. This might need updating in 12 months time, but actually just pulling it together helps stimulate conversation. It's stimulated a whole podcast, so it's worth talking about. I don't know about you. I've got thoughts, but
I'll give my general summary. So my general opinion. So like I said, it's like we joke. I see your face more than my wife's when I look on LinkedIn, and you always have some good stories and articles. That's it. So actually having it in one place is great, and I think some of the topics you dive into, if people want to, they can dive deeper into some of the podcasts and other episodes that we've done previously to really get some deeper insight. But I think you're right. It's like we kind of assume, because maybe we are in a bit of an echo chamber, and even within the industry, I think sometimes it can feel like that. But I think there's a lot of great, valuable takeaways and from actionable takeaways that people can take from this. And it's funny because it was the chicken and the egg, and actually the podcast came for the report, and X number of podcast episodes in, and finally we get the report. So good job, Ed.
It's taking a while.
Does that mean we're finished now?
Yeah. Do we still have a job?
Welcome to the last episode of The Attention Shift.
Now we've done 10 episodes. I think we're going to keep going. But yeah, I mean, look, when we talk about the attention economy, the reality is there's been a whole reset, right, of how people think about telling their stories in one way or another. And you can do it in a multitude of ways across a multitude of channels. There's not necessarily one right or wrong way of doing it, but I think often we just say to people, just do it, right? Just tell the story, be authentic. And we try to encapsulate some of that in there, like I said, with some case studies in there as well that give a bit of context of what the new, let's call them, broadcasters look like?
That was going to be what I...
And again, when I say broadcasters, I'm talking about people casting broadly.
Exactly. Yeah. But do you know what? That I've borrowed that phrase from you. That's one thing that I've taken away from doing this podcast.
You make me look good on a bi-weekly basis. You can have that.
But, I mean, it's fair to say a lot of people parrot buzzwords, and I've fallen into that trap many a time. And we talk about strategy and principles and authenticity. But what I wanted to dive into after reading this report was let's get into the nuts and bolts. Let's look at people like the Kelce brothers. Yep. Let's look at Bryson DeChambeau, which are case studies referenced in this report. And let's actually dive into why it works for them, because we can talk in principles and strategy as much as we like, but they're doing it, so we need to break down and deconstruct why they're having so much success. So I'm going to throw it to you first, because we were talking about new heights. Those Kelce brothers are pretty much unstoppable.
They're pretty unstoppable at the moment. Let's dive into some of the numbers to kind of back that up, which is, they've only been going for 2 years, which I think feels like
they've been around a lot longer for a start.
First, it feels like they're around about forever, and I know maybe a certain pop star helps with the association.
Inevitably.
But, the sort of the season that they've done across 28 episodes in a single NFL season, which was doubling season 1, 54 million plus views. I mean, that's crazy. I know there is a halo effect that comes with it. They've secured $100 million media deal with Amazon's Wordery. They grew their Instagram by 4.13 times in 1 year. And they got 247,000 new followers in the same period on Twitter. So, they're pulling in the deals, they're getting the reach, and they're doing something different. And it's resonating.
Without using a word that begins with A, why is it working, Ed?
It's real. I think, look, Jason Kelce, right? When you go, so I saw him speak at Cannes Lion a couple of years ago now, and they were both on stage together, right? And his brother was like, look, he's the genius, right?
Yeah.
He got a marketing degree. That's
that
what he
helps,
studied.
doesn't it?
He knows what he's doing, and he said he's
like Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, he's put it himself. He said, look, none of this happens by chance. This guy plans it out, and you could see that he was at the end of his NFL career. He saw the opportunity. He knew there were personalities that they can talk, they're very eloquent, they have fun, and ultimately they tell real stories. Like the fact, all right, Taylor Swift, you throw her in the mix as well. That's
launch a new album, that helps.
Launch a new album, like that's the crossover, right? That it's like what was sports has become culture, and then you're sort of linking that into that she would come on the podcast because it's clearly because she doesn't do anything by accident either.
Oh my!
She's come on that podcast to talk about her album. She knows that that's going to really help her to have an impact with what she's doing. And
there is an art to being that intentional but making it look natural, isn't there?
So,
because it doesn't feel too constructed. We all buy into it. I mean, but what makes you think, because started off as two sporting brothers with a sports podcast, but now I think we'd all agree that it's transcended that and it's moved into culture, it's driving conversations. What takes it from there to there, in your view? Is it the production? Is it that smarts and planning it very intentionally but making it look easy and natural? What are what's that secret ingredient?
Right? Like, I think that's it. It's like they're not just players, they're fans first of all. And if you take it at that simpleness at the beginning, which is they treat fans like they know what they're talking about. They're talking about how they're doing things together, how their match days are going, how their training's doing, all the stuff that we may have mentioned before, which is about creating those behind the scenes moments, those glimpses of personality that you don't see. And gone are the days of the sort of polished athlete is now done. And I think the attention as we took, which is in the report, which is about that moving to sort of athlete owned media, where the person who used to be in control of the sort of relationship with the fan was the club or the broadcaster. And actually that was never really true, if we were completely honest with ourselves. No. So it's like it was about what happened on the pitch, or that everyone had their favorite footballer or their favorite athlete, and it was always about that. But now I think it's just with the way social media is and the reach and the way that people are telling stories, just genuinely just being themselves. And I think that's what, if you go back, Taylor Swift was so good at, right? She was one of the ones who first started this, which was just documenting a day, right? That makes a difference.
It comes down to that proximity, doesn't it? We've spoken about lots. Like, that's what creators do. is they have a much more intimate, a closer relationship with their fan. It feels like, I mean, very often you're only 6 inches away from the Kelce brothers. It's actually close, even though it's through a screen. It's that parasocial relationship that we talk about. Do you think the fact that they're brothers helps as well? Because the fact that they are family also lends that, you know, you're close. In there, you're hanging out with these two brothers, and it feels even more like you're in the room with them.
Because they're just being brothers, right? Which you wouldn't see, you know, you don't see that on a match day, right? You know, that's that sort of sibling rivalry and the banter that you get, you know, with siblings. It's not something you'd ever see.
Because game day, there's a seriousness to it, right? But this is their way of chilling out. This was their way of chilling out when they first started doing it, and also being able to speak to each other regularly. Because I imagine they didn't get a chance to speak that regularly when they were playing for 2 different teams, 2 different parts of the country. So I think they started out really like that, and then very quickly realised actually it could be so much more than that.
How much freedom do you think they had? I mean, obviously they've clearly had some creative freedom to do what they want. Obviously, it's grown, and obviously it's helped grow the audience for the club, right? For the Chiefs. How much freedom do you reckon they had at the beginning? Do you reckon they just did it and asked for forgiveness rather than permission, or do you think that?
I don't know. I think now they've got as much freedom as they want. I don't think anybody would tell them what to do. Well, and it comes down to trust we've spoken about before. You know, again, when a rights owner or a broadcaster used to control the relationship with the audience or the fan or the viewer, then things could be constructed in a certain way, and then creators came along and were like, no, we'll do it our way. And I do think that some of the more forward thinking partners, whether it's brand sponsors or producers of the show, are now like, okay, we have to let them do what they do, because if we try and shape it or round the edges off too much, it'll come across, well, they will lose that realness. I'm not going to use the A word, but but that's something that the creator economy really is forcing a lot of brand and rights owners to do, is cede a little bit of control. You've got to let them do what they do best. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a lot of...
You're scowling.
No, I'm just thinking.
Just his face,
That's just my thinking face. No, I agree. I don't think there'll have been a lot of pushback from their teams or the NFL in general. They were back into their career anyway, both of them. Like Travis playing this year, but again, could this be his last year?
He's getting married, right?
Yeah. Jason Nori obviously retired as well, so I think, you know, back in the career they've got more control. Because if someone turns around and says you can't do it, they go, well, you know what, I won't. Don't need to keep playing. I've had a good career. I've made the money anyway. But there are plenty of other younger NFL players now who are doing podcasts as well. They want the same success these two have had, because I guess pioneers in terms of certainly in their sport. But there's others that have done it too, right?
That's the opportunity, isn't it? Because that's how fans expect to engage now, and we talk about meeting fans where they are and how you want to build a relationship. These are just a shining example and one of many great examples of how you can do it. And also, let's be honest, a cheap way of doing it, right? Like, you know, getting those guys just to do a podcast compared to, you know, think of the rights deals and the exposure that's come from this off the back of it. You know, it's crazy how this reaches. And I think that, like you say in the report, which is letting athletes, you know, be your brand, you know, be not just a brand ambassador, but let them have their voice and let them build the audience. That's only going to bring the attention to the club in the right way.
It's interesting what you've just said there, because the other example in the case study in the report was Bryson DeChambeau. Now, he came in for a lot of flack in the early days when he was creating on his TikTok account. I don't think Liv were very keen on him doing some stuff. So, but now you look at the amount of views that he's getting in some of his challenges. He did the hole-in-one over my house. I was completely obsessed with his getting the ball into the cup to give away a Bentley that he did recently. Now that's completely flipped. They're looking at Bryson DeChambeau as he's
the face of Liv, right?
Well, I'm not mastering into goals. I couldn't tell you who else plays on the Live Tour.
Yeah, exactly.
I know he does because of what he does, but sorry,
John Rahm.
Yeah, but I don't see any kind of. Whereas I see Brighton stuff all the time, and I'm not going searching for it.
But I think but isn't that the thing? You know, you say you got flack at the beginning, because I think there's 2 parts to that. One was traditional golfing fans, you know, just didn't want that, this doesn't cater to, you know, we were talking about Happy Gilmore, you know, before. It's almost the Happy Gilmore of golf, right? Like, you know, you kind of like this new way of doing things that people didn't like, and that's the whole premise of the film Happy Gilmore, was that you know, doing things different, and it resonated. The whole Live rivalry thing was things again, but it'd be interesting to see mean, they let him do it, and of course they're paying him lots of money to promote the brand, and it's paid off. And I think that's the point. It's that you're giving these people creative freedom, and you're engaging people with where they are, and you need that licensed creativity and a bit of trust.
Interesting. Would he have done what he's done if it had stayed on the PGA tour?
No way.
I'm not that the
They
PGA
would have allowed it.
No way.
I don't know.
They would,
I mean,
no.
they're
I
not.
don't think
They're not a massive fan of too much.
If Liv didn't exist, do you think any of this would have changed in golf? If there was no Liv.
There was already lots of talk about like they weren't reaching younger audiences, right? But
yeah, but would they have gone down this path? I mean, people would have told them to.
I mean, he's investing $1 million a year in his content creation.
Yeah.
But he sees that as ultimately he's investing in his
future.
Future.
I mean, that really is a hedge against when his playing career is done. And I'd say arguably that's pretty much set now.
And what he's done as well is he's built a platform now that if he wants to get a message out, that he doesn't have to rely on traditional media to do it.
No.
And to be fair, Rory's now pulled back from doing traditional media as well. He said he's not. I saw something. But I saw something recently where he actually in a press conference said, "I'm just going to speak direct to my fans now because you guys are not doing me." This was in a press conference, not doing me any favors in terms of.
That's it in a nutshell, isn't it? Talk about.
Well, I come here and spend all this time and actually, what do I get back from you? Whereas actually from my fans, I can talk directly to them and they get it as it is.
Yeah.
And also, it's just a new channel to them. For him, if he wants to bring the next generation of golfers through, all he has to do is promote, any golfer on it in the thing, and they've got instant audience, right?
Yeah.
You've got this instant pathway now of getting new golfers into the sport. Like you said, doing things that you wouldn't see before. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that's a bit like how Drive to Survive did it. Got different people into F1. I think that's been a real great. Just an athlete taking some initiative to really drive something to a younger audience base that wasn't being reached before.
And I guess his success also is led to, you've now got Good Golf that are doing loads of brilliant stuff on YouTube. Golf is having a real moment, and you've got to credit him for a lot of that, right? There's a YouTube first series called Shanked, which is a scripted drama based around a golf club, but it's a YouTuber. It's not paid for by YouTube, but it's
original on YouTube.
Original on YouTube. So it's having a real moment, and you've got to. You can't take Bryson DeChambeau out of that equation. He's right at the beginning of it, because he's now this. He's kind of a creator business layered on top of an athlete, which is what we're seeing more and more of. And that means that they're really, really powerful. It's interesting what you said about how a lot of them now are going, no, I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm going over here where I own that relationship with the fan, and it's much more direct.
And that brings all the sponsorship on the back of it as well. Everything else that drives that. He knows he's going to get the eyeballs. He's going to get the insights. We talk about data a lot. He's going to get the insights from YouTube. He's going to get all those insights that you wouldn't get from just doing brand partnerships, or even from traditionally from the associations. How much would he see about his audience figures before? And
you'd imagine now as well, because I think when if you're thinking back sort of 10, 15 years where sponsored endorsements happening for individual sportsmen and women, you'd imagine now, I'd be amazed if the value's not gone massively up compared to what it used to be, because now ultimately these people are making the content as well to go with it. The video you showed me earlier that Bryson did for Underdog, right? With the Bentley.
So
I'd not seen that. And I was mesmerised by it. And look, when he gets the ball in the cup and there's the sort of genuine, he celebrates it like a fan would, right? It felt like he's genuinely celebrating. So,
and that was 12 days with Underdog. So that challenge took him 12 days to get that ball in the cup, and it was compounding. Every single day I went back and I could see the views and the likes.
And everyone's getting more engaged.
That has got to be commercially much more efficient for Underdog than if they just did a straight media deal or sponsorship, for sure. So I thought that was really, really good and thought-provoking from the report.
Okay, so shorter episode this week, just because
I would encourage people to download and dig in.
Download it, definitely.
You can go to Display website, and on Display website, you'll be able to go into what section, Will? Downloads, obviously.
See what you did there?
Should put it away there, really. Go to the download section, and then you'll be able to download the report. And again, welcome any feedback, observations.
Well worth it.
Definitely.
Any typos you notice, please do send blame Will.
I got one.
Sorry, but thanks for your time. Thank you for allowing me to talk about this on our podcast. But yeah, we've been The Attention Shift. If you've got any questions, observations, like to come on as a guest, email us at hello@attentionshift.media. Got it right this time. Probably first time.
And you can listen to all the past episodes of The Attention Shift, which actually covers most of this report over the previous 10 episodes on Display's website.
Yeah, display.com.
Thanks, Ed.
I've been Ad Abbis.
I've been Lee Rebel.
And I'm Joe Redfern.
Thank you.
Cheers. That's it for this episode of The Attention Shift. Remember to like and subscribe and listen in next time. And do let us know what you think. Email us at hello@attentionshift.media. So that's hello@attentionshift.media.